Shalakaya Chakshurundaratane Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, for a second session, or rather, second session of the morning, the question I had was, is everybody able to visualize the sky? We have divided the sky into 12 parts. We have divided the sky into 12 different parts. The 12 parts are the different signs, the Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. These are 12 zodiacal signs. Lord Surya, he is the main reference point. When he travels around the sky, when he enters into a particular sign, Aries, then we say that Aries has begun. And then when he leaves Aries, he enters into Taurus. That's he basically, Lord Surya defines the beginning of Aries, the beginning of Taurus, the beginning of Gemini. He is the one who has cut the sky into 12 different parts based on his travels. Now, how does this happen? Have you heard of the word constellation? In Sanskrit we use the word nakshatra. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am the moon amongst the nakshatras. Because the moon, Chandra, he has 27 wives. And each of these wives, he has built a huge palace in the sky. His favorite wife is Rohini. So he goes from one palace to the other, in a period of 27 days, 29 and a half days approximately. So these palaces of his different wives are in the sky. The first palace is Ashwini. Ashwini is a nakshatra. So when the sun enters Ashwini, the sign Aries begins. And then you have 2.5 nakshatras in one zodiacal sign. Then in the middle of Kritika, the sun begins the entry into Taurus. So the sky, as you see here, has constellations around it. The sun travels from one constellation to the other. He covers from the beginning of Ashwini to 3/4 of Kritika. He completes the zodiacal sign of Aries. Then he enters into Kritika, he goes into Mrigashira, he completes Taurus. So, the lunar mansions, as we call it, constellations, they exist in the sky. The sun's entry into Ashwini signifies the beginning of Aries. The sun's exit out of Revati signifies the end of Pisces, literally. So this is how the zodiacal signs are divided into 12 different parts by the entry of the sun into one of these particular constellations. These constellations are the palaces constructed by the moon for his wives. These are reference points. When the reference point of Ashwini begins, the sun is entering into Aries. When the sun enters into, for example, exits out of Pisces, the last sign, he is exiting out of Revati, the last constellation. Does it make sense as to how the sky is divided? So, the moon being in one of these constellations is how we derive the nakshatra of the person. Someone says, I am Ashwini nakshatra, I am Bharani nakshatra, I am Kritika nakshatra, I am Revati. This is the moon at time of birth is in one of the palaces of his 27 wives. That becomes the nakshatra of the person. This is very critical because that person is going to be fed. The moon is the mother. It has the ability to nurture and bring up the child. As a consequence, we look at the position of the moon during birth to see if he is well placed, to determine which nakshatra and how things are to be done. We derive the nakshatra. For example, if someone is born in Ashwini nakshatra, which is the first constellation of the zodiac, the Vedic zodiac, we will derive the nakshatra and then during the Ashwini occurrence every month, fire sacrifices can be done to bring up the health of the child. So it's a very scientific way, because that is how the nurturing is going to be there. So Satkriya Saradipika has an entire program of us being able to offer certain fire sacrifices for the child based on that particular time when they're born. Okay? Now, this particular arbitrary, I would call this arbitrary because it's not a definitive clear circle. It is somewhat arbitrary in its construct. This particular same circle is basically drawn as a zodiac chart. We're going to look at a zodiac chart now, an astrology chart. See, this doesn't come up. Why wouldn't this come up? Even though I'm trying to see it. Yeah? This is not PowerPoint. Do you know? Oh. Okay, so these are two monitors. I think we have to reduce the monitor there. That's why. Good. Okay, so I have to see this. So this is acting as two monitors. That's why. Okay. Now, does everybody see this chart? This is called a Rasi chart. The first sign here, this is basically, what does it say? It says Islin, New Jersey, that's where I live. So it is showing you the chart when you opened up it's taking the computer time, and it is showing you this. It's 6:10 in the morning, because my time here is based in London, so it's taking 6:10 in the morning. This is New Jersey at 6:10 in the morning today. Okay, now, this chart here, if you notice, is the zodiac chart. It is a zodiacal chart. The circle that you saw in the previous slide, which was somewhat arbitrary, it was not constructed in a proper way, is now being represented in this particular fashion. That's all. So this is the sky. This is the sky. The circle that you saw in the previous slide, which was somewhat all over the place, Aries, Gemini, so on, now has been represented in a clear definition in form of this particular block. This is the sky above your head. Does it make sense, devotees? Huh? Now, this is Aries. Can you see my cursor? This is Aries. My cursor, it's right here. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. 12 signs. This is a representation of the sky at 6 o'clock in the morning in New Jersey this morning. This is a representation of the sky. Do you see this now? Do we understand it? Any questions on this? There's a lot of information here. I'm just wanting you to focus on what I was just displaying to you, is that the circle which I showed you before, the bluish arbitrary circle, now has been represented as more definitive blocks. This is Rahu, R-A. He is now placed in Cancer. This is Mars. He is placed in Virgo. 6:10 in the morning, New Jersey. Jupiter and Venus, they are placed in Libra. Sun, Mercury and Saturn, they are in Scorpio. Sagittarius does not have anything. In Capricorn, you have Ketu and Moon. Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, nothing. And Leo, no planets. So this is, for example, if a child were to be born at 6:10 in the morning in New Jersey this morning, this would be his birth chart or her birth chart. A child born, this would be the birth chart. This is a representation of the sky. Now, this is AS. Do you see this AS here? That is called the Lagna, the ascendant. It's a very important reference point. It is basically you at the time of birth is AS. It's a very important reference point. Moon is a reference point because we study the mind by looking at the placement of the moon. Now, what is the specific nakshatra the moon is situated in? It is actually in Capricorn, it is in Shravana. My cursor is pointing at Shravana. It is in Shravana. The moon is in Shravana at this point in time. So this child who is born at 6:10 in the morning, if there was any child born at 6:10 this morning in New Jersey, would have Shravana nakshatra because the moon is situated in the constellation of Shravana. The sun is situated in Scorpio. Was this child, devotees, please pay attention to this because it's very important. I'm asking you a question. Was this child born before sunrise, or was the child born during the time of sunrise, or was the child born after sunrise?
Before.
Before. Okay, who said before? Bhavish? Why?
I may have cheated, but it was on in the middle of the screen. It tells you what time sunrise is.
You surely have cheated. I was expecting to use other faculties, but that's all right. You used your observation skills. Before sunrise. It's very simple to see from the chart, without even looking at the chart, as to whether the child was born before or after sunrise. Where is the sun in this chart? It is right here in Scorpio. Do you see this AS? AS is the ascendant, the rising sign. So if it is in a sign before the sun, it means the child was born before sunrise. If it was in a sign after the sun, the child was born during the day. Do you understand? It's very simple. So, the 24 hours in a day are divided into 2 hours in each zodiacal sign, approximately. So, for every 2 hours, you will find this ascendant changing. Every 2 hours, you will find the ascendant changing. It's a very important reference point. It basically provides me immense information about the personality of the person. It tells me what is wrong, what is right, and everything else if I just look at the starting point. This is the actual time of birth. The time of birth, every one of us is going to have an ascendant depending on how far into the day or how far before sunrise we were born. The ascendant would have been moved into one of these signs. It's a very simple concept to calculate where you are. It's very simple. It's actually fairly simple. Some people have the sun in the zodiacal sign where the AS is, which means they were born very close within 2 hour gap of sunrise. Yeah? Some people have it farther away, which means they were born in the night. Some people have it diametrically opposite, 7 signs away, which means they were born in the evening when sunrise is in the morning. You see? Any questions on this concept? So the sun, which is here in Scorpio, will move out of Scorpio, he will go into Sagittarius. In a similar fashion, he is going to spend 30 days in each sign. This is your sun sign. This is not the sun sign that you read based on the Western date of birth and think that this is my sun sign. Because some of us, we all have the sun sign from Western concept where we say we are born in, we are Sagittarius, we are Scorpio. That concept and the Vedic concept is quite different because the Vedic concept does not count time like Western concepts do. Western concepts have not accounted for Kali Yuga. We count time from the beginning of Kali Yuga, and as a consequence, we also adjust for planetary adjustments and movements over a period of time. Because as the Yuga progresses, there are certain sky adjustments which are made based on the writings of the sages. So Western astrology does not use any of that to make progressions. That is the reason why when someone leaves their body, that the tithi keeps changing year after year. It is not the same tithi. So one year we have Gaur Purnima one day, the next year we have Gaur Purnima in a completely different day. We have Janmashtami being celebrated on different days every year. This is because the Hindu or the Vedic calendar progresses from Kali Yuga and they make planetary adjustments based on the sage's observation for every year. As a consequence, what it is today is very different from what it was in the past. So the progression is very different. So if you try to fit in Western dates with Vedic system, we find so many changes occurring, and we feel that we have to consult the Panchang, the Mayapur Vedic calendar to find out which day is Narasimha Chaturdasi this year. It is not the same thing as what it was last year because it keeps changing. This is held constant. In Christian theology, the birth of Lord Christ is celebrated on December 25th fixed every year, which is not true. If you really progress time, he was not really born on December 25th every year. That will keep changing, but it is too complicated for people to assimilate and act upon. But in Indian theology, they have systems where they shift the position of planets over a period of time in the entire Yuga. We take it from Kali Yuga and we make progressions. Because the sky changes. Sometimes the speed of the planet increases, sometimes it slows down. All of this is accounted for. So it's quite complex. It is not some straightforward, you just start after Christ, before Christ, and then count the number of days, and this is your year. Every year, New Year begins on January 1st. I never celebrate January 1st as New Year. I know which day my New Year begins. Because January 1st is so arbitrary, it has no meaning. It has no meaning because it's really not what it is supposed to be. It never begins anything. Yeah? So for me, the start of every year is Gaur Purnima. Gaurav Dham, we are servants of Lord Chaitanya. Every year begins on Gaur Purnima for me. Then I count that this is the Gaurav Dham, this is my plan from one Gaurav Dham to the other of what I'm going to offer Lord Chaitanya. Then I make a plan for one Gaurav Dham. So this way, that's my count because it has more meaning, not January 1st. Nothing wrong in gathering and celebrating and having kirtan on January 1st. It's always good. Always good, nothing wrong. But it does not have any scientific basis from a Vedic perspective. It does not have any meaning. Now, do we understand how this works? The degrees are very different. So we cannot compare Western astrology and Indian astrology, Vedic astrology, because the counting of time is very different in two different systems. There's some similarity because we use the same names for the planets. Very different otherwise. Very different. So, the sun is in one sign every month. So there are several reference points. The sun sign is a reference point. The health of the person can be determined by the sun sign, where the sun is during time of birth. The ascendant is literally the motivation, the physical body. The 9 planets rule the 12 signs. Aries is ruled by Mars, Taurus by Venus, Gemini Mercury, Moon rules Cancer, Sun Leo, Mercury again Virgo, Venus again Libra, Mars and Ketu owns Scorpio, Jupiter owns Sagittarius, Saturn owns Capricorn, Saturn owns Aquarius, and Jupiter again owns Pisces. So planets own these houses. When the sun enters into any house in the zodiac, he gives energy to that house, he provides resources to the house, he enlivens the entire house because sun is the storehouse of all wealth and all resources. When he enters into any sign, he gives all of this. So the planets own these signs as well. So at the time of birth, an astrologer will look to see where is this AS, which is going to tell him what is the rising sign at the time of birth, the ascendant. That's a very important reference point, the most important reference point. Then he will look for where is the moon. He will test the mind of the person. Is the mind proper? Is the mind defective? In what way? Then he will look for the sun. He will want to see whether the sun is well placed, badly placed, to see the health of the person. Then he will want to look for some special combinations which show him what is going on in the chart and what is happening. Then he will want to see what is the will of the Lord. This is what the person is supposed to do, but then there is the will of the Lord. He has to see it. Then he can see what is the karma which is coming from the mother's side, what is the karma coming from the father's side, which side is causing the problem. Then he can also see where the karma which is affecting the person is distinctly from the past, where they have no control over life. They simply have to go along life because the past life is taking over, and they're just going along whatever started in the previous lifetime. All this information is present in the chart. Yeah? There's great detail. Now, let us just take a look at the elements. Okay? We spoke of the elements extensively. Does everybody see this here? You can't probably see it because it's too far off from you. This body of, even I can't see it for that matter. Okay. Now, this person at 6 o'clock or 6:10 in the morning, this person was born on which day? Which day was this person born on? No, day. Day.
Today?
No?
Today?
Yeah, what was he born on? What day is today?
So it's Friday.
25th November.
Day. Sunday, Monday.
Saturday.
No. He was born on a Friday.
It says Friday on there.
It says Friday here. Why does it say Friday, Prabhu?
Before sunrise.
Because the Vedic count, the day does not end at midnight, 12 o'clock. Sunrise to sunrise is one day. So, I remember years back, it was around 10:30 in the night, and I was in Gitanagari, and one devotee was furiously chanting. It was 11 o'clock. And he wanted to finish his 16 rounds before the day ended at 12 o'clock in the night. I didn't tell him that the day will not end now, it is going to end at 6 o'clock in the morning, so don't worry, you have time. I didn't tell him that. He was furiously chanting, he wanted to finish it because it's midnight and I don't want to complete, I want to complete my 16 rounds and I don't want to push it to the next day. I didn't tell him that. So the Vedic day is 6 o'clock in the morning today to 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Sunrise to sunrise is one day. So if you're born during any part of one sunrise to another sunrise, you're considered to be born on that particular day. So, since this was at 6:10 in the morning and sun had not risen yet, this is counted as a Friday, which is the previous day. Does it make sense? The day you're born in, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, is ruled by a certain planet. Isn't it? Monday is ruled by which planet? Moon. Tuesday? Mars. Wednesday? Mercury. Thursday? Jupiter. And Friday? Venus. Saturday? Saturn. Sunday? Sun. So the Vedic week begins with the sun. It is sun first. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You see, the beginning of the week is Sunday. It is not Monday, it is Sunday. It begins there. Now, since each of these planets rule the day you are born, that planet and his placement in the chart is critical to study for health. The day you are born is critical to study for health. The Vara. Because that particular day, the day you're born, that day is one of the 5 angas. You see, when you're looking for an auspicious time, we call it muhurta, and it has got 5 limbs, pancha anga. That is why the ephemeris, I'm sorry, not the ephemeris, we're talking about the panchanga, the almanac, is called the panchanga, because you're looking for the 5 different elements that are controlling time. One of the elements that controls time is the day you're born. And what is the specific nature of the element of the day you're born? It's fire. The day you're born, the planet associated with it, will give me information about fire element in you. If the fire is weak, the person does not have the ability to digest life. They struggle through life if the fire is weak. They don't have the ability to digest life, not food, but life itself requires fire to be able to take in all that is happening and to consume it and reach conclusions and move forward dynamically. Fire is required for health. So the day you're born is going to represent fire, the element of fire, and that will give me information in the chart if that planet is poorly placed when the time you're born, then it will give you information that this person's health is of a certain nature. So increasing the fire, reducing the fire, learning how to perform maybe fire yagyas, these are all very beneficial if someone has the ability to do so, to control the fire. Fire is very important. How do you create wealth, devotees? What is wealth? What is the concept of wealth? It's very simple if you really understand it. What is wealth? Resources, right? How do you create resources? If you're employed, Srimon, you're employed, what is your boss paying you for?
What I'm doing?
No, what is he paying you for? What is he paying for literally? If you look at it from a... Huh?
He's paying money for it.
He's paying you money for what purpose?
Your time.
Oh yeah.
Your time, but more importantly, your boss is paying you money for your energy. It is ultimately your energy that gets transformed into wealth. People with very low energy cannot produce wealth. People with high energy, they have the ability to create things for themselves. Wealth and energy are the same. It is ultimately energy that gets transformed into wealth. You notice that if you don't have the ability to act and you don't have the ability to be dynamic, you do not create as much wealth as someone who is very dynamic, who is constantly thinking, who has the ability to make arrangements. So energy equals health, it equals wealth, it equals resources. So the day you're born, if that planet is badly placed in the chart, it will also tell me the ability of the person to look after themselves. It's very difficult if the energy level is low, if the fire is low. So then mantras are given, rituals are given to increase the fire. Or if there is a deeper problem because something has happened where the day you're born, that planet, for example, it could be, Saturn. Saturn, you could be born on a Saturday, and Saturn represents servants. Some of us had a lot of authority over many servants in our previous lifetime. We restricted them in many ways, we gave them a very hard time, we ill-treated them, we held back what was rightfully theirs. In India, and even in those days, and perhaps even in Europe, you had the feudal, the lords and the ladies and so on and so forth, the royalty governing the region. So different people had different ways to treat people whom they had under control. So Saturn represents servants. If you're ill-treated servants, you have treated them very badly, you have given a lot of trouble for labor, then in this particular lifetime you're born on a Saturday, that Saturn is going to be so problematic that he would constantly keep us without good health, and he can give us a lot of trouble throughout life just because there would be no energy, no resources, no efficiency. Do you understand? It's a very straightforward and almost, you can say, ruthless system. It is quite ruthless because it really doesn't have, a little bit of mercy or anything. It is ruthless. There's really no point in thinking of anything else. It's very ruthless. Everybody, you have to, if you did something, you're going to get punished heavily in this particular lifetime. So the struggles that we have are connected to this. Say, for example, the day you're born, sometimes people have very good health to the last day when they go. So it's very good health, they have the ability. Now, another Vedic concept which is very important. This is not Western, it is Vedic. How long we are going to be on the planet and how healthy we are going to be is not connected at all. Only an astrologer from Vedic astrology, they will tell you that good health and how long you're going to be on the planet, no connection. That's a Western concept. That if you're healthy, you take care of it and you increase this and you increase that and somehow you can live for a more number of years. It's a Western concept. Someone very healthy can live very young. Someone with bad health, they can continue with bad health for 90 years, 100 years. The chart will show you that. That it has no connection, good health and longevity. Of course, if someone comes and gets a terminal disease, then we see whether the person is going to have a problem with leaving the body, because the body is getting destroyed. There is no doubt. But in general, thinking that if you're healthy, you're going to live is not the correct way to look at it. If you're healthy, you're going to live, true. But how long? No connection. No connection whatsoever. It's a completely different concept. So, Vara, the day you are born is called Vara. Day. In Sanskrit we call it Vara. And we say Shanivar, Guruvar, Ravivar, Somvar. Yeah? This is Sanskrit for the 7 days of the week. Yeah? So the day you're born is going to tell you how healthy you are. So that is one of the limbs of the Panchanga. See how much information you can just gather by the day the person is born and the planet's position in the chart. You can gather a lot of information because it tells you how much Agni, how much fire the person has. The next is Tithi. What is the Tithi which you see here? Shukla Saptami. What is the meaning of Shukla? Shukla means white. Shukla means white. Sanskrit Shukla means white. Saptami is the 7th day of the lunar phase. There are 15 phases of the moon, of which this is the 7th day. Now do you see that there is a planet SA next to it? In parenthesis, people here can see. SA is a planet put next to the Saptami, the Tithi you were born in. It means Saturn rules the Tithi. It means Saturn is ruling this Tithi. That particular planet at the time of birth, Saturn ruling the Tithi, because Tithi is telling me and is connected to the water element in the body. Amongst the 5 elements, the fire element, the day you are born. The lunar day tells me the water element. That planet Saturn practically will govern all the relationships. This person's relationships will be governed by Saturn. If Saturn is badly placed, then this person's relationships are ruined. Just one look you can tell as to what is the issue with relationships. Just because that particular planet ruling relationships is badly placed, is weak, is not properly set. And you fix it in certain ways. 2 elements I've covered. We have covered the fire element, the day of birth. We have covered the water element, which is the Tithi, which is the actual Tithi which we use for all our festivals is Tithi, the lunar day. Here it is Saptami. Saptami is ruled by Saturn. For day of birth, I will look for Venus because it is Friday. For Tithi, I will look for Saturn because it is ruled by Saturn. Okay? Now, let's look for one more area. Nakshatra. Nakshatra is constellation. This person was born when the moon was in Shravana. Shravana is actually a very auspicious constellation. It is the constellation of Vishnu. It's very auspicious. So this person's moon was born at that particular time. Now, who rules Shravana? It is the moon who rules Shravana as well. In addition, there's no confusion. Amongst the 9 planets, moon is also a planet. The moon is placed in Shravana and moon owns Shravana. Each planet owns 3 nakshatras, literally. There are 27 nakshatras divided by 9. Each planet owns 3 nakshatras. Yeah? So moon rules. Now, what does nakshatra tell me? Nakshatra is Vayu. The day you're born is Vara. The day you're born is Agni, fire. The Tithi you're born in is the water element. It tells me about relationships. The nakshatra is Vayu, air element. What does it tell me? What is air element? What does it do? Ultimately, when a human being is born on this planet, not only a human being, every being, a certain quantity, a fixed quantity of inhalations and exhalations are permitted for the person. Vedic time at the lowest level is inhalation and exhalation. It is not 1 minute, 2 minutes. It is an inward breath and outward breath is Vedic time. This is Vedic time. The counting of time is through inhalations and exhalations at the lowest level. It's the lowest unit. How many times is someone supposed to breathe air into their lungs is determined at the time of birth. That is longevity. How long are they going to be on the planet is number of breaths they have been allocated. This is the reason why the yogis, they started performing pranayama so that they could take one breath and then extend that particular breath for many, many hours even, so that they don't need to take one more breath. They can use that breath just to live for so many hours. So as a consequence, they can be on the planet for a long time. So they knew that I'm allowed, for example, 100 breaths. If I'm allowed 100, let me make it more efficient so that each time I breathe in, I will not breathe out for a long time. So the yogis have the ability to hold on to air. That's why pranayama, the principle of pranayama, was taught. How to hold prana in your body. How do you hold the life force? How do you take one breath and extend it so that you can get rejuvenated for many, many, many days? They could do it. Those days, the yogi used to be in asana, and he used to be concentrating on the Lord in the heart for many, many, many days, many months, years. They used to extend the longevity. So the yogis have the ability to extend the life. Why? Because they have a quantity of number of breaths you're allowed, and then they will use each and every breath very carefully. It's such a beautiful, amazing concept. That is why this is a part of Ashtanga Yoga, so that you will be able to manage time. Because if you have sadhana, and your sadhana requires 300 years, but you're only going to be on the planet for 50 years, then what is the point? So the yogi will know how to create more time for himself. By doing pranayama, he will use each and every breath and he will extend it. Yes, Prabhu.
Does it mean that exercise could reduce one's longevity then, if you're breathing faster?
Non-yogic exercise can. See, you are ultimately displacing life force. How you displace life force have to be thought out. If you go to work outside to make money, you are displacing your life force and you're creating wealth because you're putting in certain amount of effort. If someone is engaging in the process of procreating, for example, let's put it plainly, if someone is engaging in sex life, then each and every time they pass semen, they are giving up life force. So the longevity reduces. So in that sense, it is all about life force, preserving life force. The way you breathe can build life force in you, or it can deplete. So these days people have so many breathing problems when they sleep, and there's so many people with so many different kind of breathing problems, they can't even breathe properly. So the life forces, they just don't have any life forces. The vitality is not there. You see? So the vitality is not there. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, the Siksha Guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur found the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj was, I think, 140 years at that point in time. And he was sitting on a basket on top of his disciple's head. His body was completely shrunk. He was 140 years. The moment he was brought there, he jumped from the basket and he started dancing in Kirtan with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was 140 years. Where did that life force come from? He was so excited by the presence of Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. That life force came from the fact that there was so much sadhana and there was so much potency in the personality. In a similar way, someone were to give up their potency either by working, I'm not against work, but working for the wrong purpose, working very hard to achieve something which has no meaning in life, then that person is giving up their life force. How you breathe is also going to tell you how you're going to build your life force. That's why pranayama was considered very important. It's an important element. You can find mention of pranayama even in our scripture, but Srila Prabhupada wanted to give us everything in a very simple way, because even what he has given, we find it so difficult to implement. He could have easily given us many more things, because all that knowledge was available. He could have easily given us pranayama, he could have given us all of that. Because in some of our samskara books, for sannyasis and so on, you have this pranayama and you have procedures and everything. So it is not that we didn't do it, or it is not that our system doesn't recognize it. It is simply that because it is so complicated, we find even the simple instructions so complicated in today's world, that Srila Prabhupada did not give complicated instructions. He just left it. He said, okay, this is best. People can figure things out. Yeah. So it is an important element. It is a very important aspect of it. So the normal initiation process of the Gayatri Mantra, for example, in my case, I was initiated into the Gayatri Mantra by my father when I was given the thread. So during that particular time, you're also taught this pranayama, you're taught all of these things when you do the Gayatri, because there are certain ways where you combine the Gayatri along with pranayama, inward breath and outward breath and so on and so forth. There's a procedure for it. There's a procedure. It's very standard Vedic procedure. Very standard. So this is very important as well. Okay? So does it make sense to you, Prabhu? So now we were talking about nakshatra, yes?
So when you say, for example, the day gives you, what is it?
The sense of the fire.
Or you look at the lunar, which planet is connected with the Tithi day.
Right.
Where are you looking on the chart? As in, what do you do with that?
Now, for example, okay, that's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to observe. Say, for example, this person is born on a Friday. So I'm looking at Venus.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the placement of Venus in the chart. And then I also have to have some judgment as to whether Venus is auspiciously placed, whether Venus is afflicted, whether Venus is happy, unhappy, all of that, for me to see what kind of effect Venus will have in the person's life. If Venus is badly placed, then I will know that since they were born on a Friday, they will have poor health.
Why health?
Because fire, it is connected to the fire element,
Okay.
and it rules the energy. Can I ask something? Is this too much detail for you? Because some of you are absolutely new. Is this too much detail? Or are you able to absorb and are you able to kind of get something out of this? So I can calibrate the next session accordingly. I'm giving you a practical sense of how this is done. You don't need to feel that you have to learn this, but you can simply appreciate the connections, because you can't really learn it in one session. But you can appreciate the link between the 5 elements, the 9 planets, and then the time of birth, and how the 5 elements, 9 planets, time of birth are connected to the 5 different limbs of time, the quality of time, and how it affects you. That is the whole purpose of this. I think the video is being taken, so it's going to be passed on as well. So if anybody wants, they can always go back to refer if you have an interest. Yeah, is this good? Okay, all right. Looks like I have to use my intuition to understand everybody. I can't understand it with the words because you're all very polite and silent. Okay.
May I just ask shortly, the calculation of all those breaths, that was very, very nice and very interesting also. How is it calculated? Is it in billions, trillions, or which? It should be so many breaths. What is the calculation of? Is it in milliards? In the chart when you see it, you can see how many breaths when looking at.
You can break it down. You see, you can break it down into a level of prana. Okay, prana. So those units can be broken down. So, for example, this is called. You know, you heard of I'm running through the Saturn period, I'm running through the Mars period. You know, people say that. Yeah? This is called a dasha. Basically, we are trying to see. One moment. Now, this is a little bit of a digression, but just want to share this knowledge. So, when will the problem come? When will the problem come? Okay, if someone has a health problem, when is it bound to come? At what time is it bound to come? So there's a system. So for example, we saw that this person's health is ruled by Venus. So when is this Venus going to come? What is going to happen? That can be seen through a representation of how time is going to be spent in life. Which planet is going to be under influence at what time? So if we were to click on this, and then I can click on this, 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 and that's it. So there are 6 levels. They are Viparadasa. It is not going to the level of inward breath and outward breath. But let us look at the time which it is going into. 6th of September 2010, whatever it is, to 6th of September 2010. What is the time, Bhavesh Prabhu? 9:17 in the morning to
9:39.
9:39. You practically can break it down to how 10 minutes of time are going to be spent in life. That is to that level here. But you can break it down even further if you have the ability to. Quite some level of detail. And imagine, a few years back, or 100 years or 50 years back, astrologers in India used to do 7 levels of these calculations, everything by hand. Now you're using software. They used to do everything by hand because they were so good that everything had to be done by hand. In fact, when you draw the chart by hand, it gives you a lot of information as well, in certain ways. Okay, so we talked about nakshatra. Nakshatra is all about sustaining one's lifespan. By looking at the placement of the nakshatra lord or nakshatra and where it is, I can find out the longevity in one of the calculations as to how long the person is going to be and what is the quality and so on. Okay, so what is the nakshatra? It's Vayu. So we looked at Vara, day of birth, which is Agni. We looked at Tithi, which is Jala, water. So we looked at fire, we looked at water, and then we looked at air, nakshatra, constellation the person is born in. And then we look at this in the chart to see how the longevity can be and what is the quality of life and how they're going to be sustained. Now let's look at one more level. Karana, yoga for example, yoga. Yoga, it is called Vriddhi Yoga, and there's Mercury. This yoga is one of the 5 panchangas. This yoga is going to say how this person is going to interact with society. Yoga literally means coming together. Does this person have the ability to bring a large number of people together? Can they come together? Can they engage with others? All of that is seen by yoga, Akash Tattva. If this particular yoga, the planet ruling yoga in this case is ME, Mercury, if he is badly placed, then the person's ability to learn Shastra, the person's ability to assimilate, develop realizations, it becomes very limited. Because that is ruled by Akash Tattva. The person cannot hear. And when I say the person can't hear, I'm literally saying that he cannot or she cannot understand things in the heart when the super soul is giving instructions. So when we read and we develop realizations, where do realizations come from? Realizations are not coming from the air, literally in one sense, yes, but they're literally coming from the Lord in the heart, who is giving us intelligence to understand certain things. This person whose yoga, the planet associated with yoga, Akash Tattva, is defective, they can't hear the super soul give instructions, they struggle. Have you seen that? Sometimes we go through phases of feeling very dull, where we can't understand Shastra. So sometimes dull phases can come. Sometimes we feel that we are not fit for Shastric reading because we feel that way. This is yoga. So one of the 5 limbs is Akash Tattva. If that is defective, then there's a problem. The last and the most important limb is Karana. Karana literally means this is the earth element. So we covered all the elements. The earth element we said is associated with action. The planet associated with the earth element will tell me how much, where the person has to go for money. If that planet is badly placed or is ill placed or not in a proper situation, then the person struggles with being able to create their profession. So this relates to the profession. So one snapshot, I have to just look at the snapshot here, look at the chart here to see where the planets are, whether they are properly placed. That will give me a clean picture within 10 minutes or 5 minutes of to where things are in a person's life. This is Panchanga. So when someone tells me, Prabhu, I need an auspicious time because I want to get married, then I have to make sure that all these 5 different elements and the 5 different limbs of Panchanga are properly situated at that particular time when they want to engage in the ceremony of marriage so that everything is auspicious. This is the whole idea of auspicious time. to figure out whether everybody is properly placed. So now I'm asking you a trick question because you attended the course for half a day now. If I were to fix marriage, what would be my most important focus? Which element I really would want to focus on in picking a good auspicious time? I've taught you for so many hours on elements. Which element would I focus on to pick an auspicious time, most importantly for marriage?
Water.
Water. Relationships. I'll be very careful in making sure that the water element during the time of marriage is proper, because it's all about relationships. Yeah? Does it make sense? Now, I will give you one more clue. Suppose this person was born on a Friday. And this person wants to start a program for fixing their health. I would simply tell them, go start on a Friday. You're born on a Friday because that particular planet is responsible for your health. So you start on that particular day and he will take over the responsibility. These are some very easy ways to give a solution. Does it make sense? It's very practical in reality. It's very scientific, it's very practical, you can break it down and you can use it if you have this knowledge. 90% of astrologers don't use this, to my knowledge. They don't look at elements, they don't look at Panchanga, they don't look at it. They don't. I know that for a fact. And the reason they don't is because the traditional way of learning includes this. You have to start here at the fundamental basic elements, understanding who controls what, and then methodically finding out how to manage them. 90% of them don't use it. I was quite surprised when I learned that this is a fact. But this is the point I was just trying to make is what we have shared since yesterday and today is sometimes not known to astrologers. So I just wanted to say that this is very valuable knowledge, it's very practical knowledge, which sometimes even astrologers don't use. That is why sometimes you find arbitrary dates, good to get married on this day, good to get married on that day. It's not true. If you really want to find a proper day, then you have to account for all the 5 elements, then you have to understand the quality of time at that particular time, and then you have to introduce it. Any questions? We'll stop here. This is basic knowledge, but I wanted to share this so that it is not basic, to be honest. That's what I was wanting to say. It is not basic, but it is valuable knowledge actually. Anyone, any question related, unrelated to this so far? Yes?
You know how the Goloka Dham is chanting the holy name, and how Prabhupada sometimes said when he was installing deities that we don't really need to do the other, the yagyas that are being done. It's sufficient if you just chant. How would that relate to, for example, finding muhurtas? Would it be adequate to just chant, or is it still of benefit?
Good question. Is it just adequate to chant, or is it all required? I have a different understanding, and I just want to share this understanding. It is Shastric as well. In Krishna consciousness, specifically under the direction of Mahaprabhu, we are not in Shanta Rasa, where we sit tight and then we keep just quiet and whatever Krishna, it's your job, you arrange everything, I'm going to be in Shanta Rasa. We are in more active rasas of relationship with the Lord. So we are in Dasya, which requires that we look for what Krishna needs. We are in Sakya, where we're constantly trying to meditate on what Krishna needs. We are in Vatsalya, we are in Madhurya, depending on the devotee's mood. So there is a dynamic component of relationship between the devotee and the Lord, to the point where our thinking is that Krishna is dependent on us. Isn't it? The deity is dependent on us. That is our concept. We don't really operate that we are dependent on the deity in one sense, but we operate with the mood that Krishna is dependent on us. Oh, we have to wake him up at this particular time. We have to keep Bhoga ready. He will be hungry. He is going to be dependent on us. He has to be given a bath. His dress has to be changed. Isn't that the mood of the devotee? That is the mood of a devotee, that Krishna is dependent on me. It is a very subtle science That we meditate that Krishna is dependent on me, but we do everything as if it depends on us. So we do everything as if it depends on us, but in reality we are dependent on Krishna's mercy. So when you're operating in this world, we do everything as if it depends on us nicely. So we go into all the details, we collect all the information. If we have the ability, we find an auspicious time for installations, deity installations. We have the ability, we do all of it as if it depends on us. Ultimately knowing that it is completely dependent on him, but this is internal. Externally, the dynamic is, it depends on us. So we are not Shanta devotees where we're going to sit tight. We want to think Krishna is dependent on us, and we do everything as if Krishna is dependent on us. But internally we have this knowledge that after all that I have done, if he wants to accept it, he will accept it. If he wants to reject it, he will reject it. It is up to him. So we can do all kinds of planning, and it is our duty to plan. But we ultimately know that if Krishna is not wanting that plan, everything will go alright. So we also are ready to accept the results. But it is our duty to plan. It is our duty to make arrangements. It is our duty to act. This is our duty. But having the understanding that even if we do all of this, if Krishna's desire is not there, it may not work. But we can't sit tight and simply say that I will do nothing, whatever happens can happen, then that is Krishna's desire and I will move on. So that should not be our mood. So it's difficult for us. So, because in Vraja, in Vrindavan, everybody is thinking that Krishna is dependent on them and they're dynamically trying to serve him. Otherwise, everything will fall apart if we have the mood of the other way around. So it works because we think this is our responsibility, we need to do our best. And doing our best can include seeking more knowledge, more information. If there's a better way to improvise, we improvise that as well. So that's how I would characterize this. But ultimately, and I say this again and again, the success of our devotees depends on the chanting of the holy names only. It is only because they are chanting the holy names that the demigods cooperate. It is not the other way around, that we can seek the help of the demigods without chanting the holy names. The holy names are being chanted, that is the reason why we receive cooperation from the universe. So we are dependent on the holy names. So ultimately, so in that sense what Srila Prabhupada said is true. It is true, absolutely, that we chant the holy names, we are good. But the contrary factor is, what he was trying to convey to us was, if you do everything else wonderfully and you don't chant the holy names, it's a waste of enterprise. It is better for you to do everything else nicely and also ensure and understand that we are dependent on the holy names. Yeah? Good question though. Any comment or question? Yes, Mataji.
I was just when you were showing how the sky is positioned, and I was just so amazed again to see how Krishna, how amazing, how he has created this material universe in a perfect way, even by giving us this knowledge also, that if you feel like in the Western country, we don't have it all. So he's giving like conditioning, but he's giving also a perfect way that you can understand where are the limits, your conditioning, you can work on that, he's giving away. So how kind is the Lord giving such
It's absolutely.
What we are losing in our Western society, we become without knowledge, fully without knowledge. So,
no, this is the subtle knowledge. Jyotish, this science of understanding the elements and fitting everything for a living being based on their karma, this is the science which Lord Brahma uses to create universes. When he creates a universe, while the creation of universe is happening, he is also putting in factors as to when the universe is going to end. You see? Because the mode of ignorance is always a part of creation in the material universes. So Lord Brahma has to use this science for him to be able to do both. Not just, this is the science of creation used by Brahma, Lord Brahma. It is actually, that is the reason why it is extraordinarily aligned and it is so intricate. It's very complex actually, and it is a very vast body of knowledge. And it's a very vast body of knowledge. It's very difficult to comprehend how complex this is. I mean, one can spend 2 or 3 lifetimes just learning it. I would love to do it, except that I have no interest in doing so. Because, you know, we have been given the holy names, so we want to go in our path. Yeah? This is useful for service, but beyond that, what is the use anyways? If you cannot serve with something, yeah, no interest. Any other question, Mataji's and Prabhu's? Any comment? Yes, Prabhu.
I have a question. When I got to know this knowledge, came across this knowledge, I found out that I was doing everything in the wrong time. For example, that I want to do something and then I did it at the wrong time. Or I really didn't want to do and it was a good time. So what can be done if I want to do everything in a proper time? And really had this feeling, okay, now I want to do and then it's a proper time for this doing.
Okay. I will give you a straightforward answer to this, because this predicament is that sometimes, many times, an individual may have knowledge, but they can't use it. Sometimes people have wonderful realizations of how they can serve Prabhupada, but they will find that they can't do it, someone else is doing it. In a few years, you can make this observation. You can make the observation that someone else is doing it, even if you have wonderful realizations. So, this defect of wanting to act properly and wanting to take advantage of opportunities is to be corrected by chanting of the holy names. That is my conclusion after many, many years. If one really chants the holy names sincerely, they have an ability to understand Krishna better. They have the ability to understand the Guru's desire better. And if you have the understanding of the Guru's desire, if you have an understanding of what Krishna desires, then you will be able to act. You see? So my point I'm trying to make to you is the solution lies in the holy names. Sometimes people ask me, Prabhu, what is the best service I can do? In reality, there are answers to this, to be honest. There are some people with book distribution skills. There are some devotees who are very good with preaching, so they're more dynamic, they're more Brahmanical, they need to be engaged with Brahmanical standard. But in reality, if any one of us wants to really understand how to serve and when to serve, that information is going to come as we progress in Krishna consciousness through japa. Good servitude and knowing the will of the Guru is going to come through japa. But until then, we will act on our motivations. But really understanding the Guru's will come through japa. So my spiritual master used to give this example. The spiritual master is thirsty. And he says, give me water. The disciple says, Guru Maharaj, I woke up early in the morning, I made fresh milk. The Guru says, I'm thirsty, give me water. Guru Maharaj, I woke up very early in the morning, I made fresh milk, I added masala to it, I put wonderful spices into it. It is very nice, it's very good culture. The Guru says, give me water. No, Guru Maharaj, I woke up very early in the morning, I made fresh milk, I made it this way, it's in a very nice cup. So, our position is like that. Initially, we are always focused on what we can do. We don't hear what the Guru wants us to do. It is only through the holy names and chanting very sincerely over several years, and when time comes, is that we develop this innate sense that this is also what my Guru Maharaj would want me to do. And we start doing it nicely. So the holy names are the source of all kinds of information and efficiency for us to be able to move forward. That has been my experience, because normally this motivation comes from within because of a conditioning. And the Guru accepts it because he is very magnanimous and he is very kind. Srila Prabhupada used to accept, okay, you're good for this, offer this service, it's good for you. So the purification occurs. But then, is that service really what he wants us to do? Because we are not able to understand it. He is only looking at our propensity. Later on, when we mature in our sadhana, we are then able to serve him according to his pleasure, according to his mood and his thing. So it's a gradual process, but that process is governed by how good we are in chanting. That is my understanding. I hope that answered your question, Prabhu. To some extent. Okay. Yes, Prabhu.
I was wondering, we take birth at a certain time, we have one defect here, one defect there, good points. To which extent can we modify those defects, and to which extent we have to live with that? I'm thinking, I know a good friend who is also astrolog, and he knows most of those things, but he's poor, always poor, and always never get opportunity to get some money. And I'm just wondering, my question is, to which extent can we correct those with some mantra, or and to which extent we have to live with it our whole life?
It's a good point. Basically, it is a matter of judgment of the astrologer. There are some things which you cannot change. The astrologer should be honest enough to say, you can't change this. You have to live with it. But to live with it, this is what you can do to make some improvements. There are some things which can be changed. So that can also be discerned from the chart. You can make a difference, you can discern or you can diagnose what can be dynamically changed through remedies, what cannot be changed. Some things are very difficult to change and they have to adjust to it, their mind and the body, they have to just adjust to it and live through it. So there can be several situations like that, and it's a matter of judgment of the astrologer and their expertise for them to be able to advise people. So at a broad level, they should be able to see that you can't change this, you can't change this. And then they should look for the biggest critical problem which the person can face. And they should provide some solution for it, because this way, when the stumbling block comes, it does not become so big that the person gets distracted from devotional service and moves away. So this is very important for devotee astrologers to do, that sometimes we have the responsibility to do that. That we have to look for, this is like a mountain, and this person cannot climb this mountain. So it is better for the astrologer to sit and say, let me resolve this. Be very methodical. Yeah. So it's a matter of judgment. Yes, Mataji.
Yet we can not change the amount of suffering what we have to go through. We can maybe change the type of suffering or the amount. This is given on this will be the whole life.
True. You can change the intensity. You can modify the intensity to some extent. Some amount of help can be given. We can do it. The primary purpose of Vedic astrology is to connect the soul to the super soul. So they have to determine what is the motivation of the Atma, and then be able to connect the Atma to a specific deity form of the Lord, so that they can chant mantras and proceed in this lifetime. This is the primary purpose of an astrologer. In addition to that, if they come with suffering, people come with suffering, then one cannot philosophize, they have to assist. You can't really talk philosophy when someone is giving you a big problem and they're coming to you saying, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't really tell them that this is the body and you can suffer through it, and you can't do that. So that is the second responsibility of the astrologer, is to assist when people are coming to them, because this is a mystical process. It is not like a grocery shop where people just walked in. The demigods are directing that particular soul to this astrologer, because the astrologer is able to see the issue and to help them. So they're duty bound to help them. So sometimes to resolve issues, sometimes to reduce the intensity, but most importantly to give direction. Give direction in terms of the spiritual journey. This is the way it is. So that's the role. That is why the astrologer was called the Daivagnya. Daivagnya is practically, he has the light. And the efficacy, the expertise of the astrologer is dependent on the sadhana. If the sadhana is weak, then they don't have the ability to even take care of their conditioning. how are they going to assist with the conditioning of others? What authority do they have? Because there's no potency. If you don't have the ability to help yourself, then how can you help someone else? So this is the other rule as well, that those days the practicing astrologer had to be very pious and very fixed in terms of their sadhana. There was sadhana to be done. There was strict sadhana. Because there is an exchange of karma. If someone approaches an astrologer, the astrologer is practically interfering with karmic reactions. They're entering into the karmic reactions in certain ways. And when they're entering into the karmic reactions, if they don't have the ability to choose what they can choose as a battle, because they are going to battle with the karma of the person to help them, then the demigods are basically going to put the responsibility on the astrologer if you don't do a job. They can say, okay, if you can't assist them, then you take the karma. So that is a reason, the same thing with gurus as well, in certain ways, in some extent, to some extent. Because if you take responsibility and you cannot assist a vast number of souls, then if your own sadhana is weak, then the guru himself falls down because they can't assist. They don't have the power to assist. In the same way, this is a karmic situation too. So the astrologer plays the role of a Siksha Guru. He is basically going to give guidance. That is the whole idea. In our society, when you function in our society, devotees are already chanting, they are already engaging in some level of seva, so they already have power. So to some extent you can give them other help, remedies and so on, but for most extent the understanding is because they are chanting, because they are connected to Mahaprabhu, then they will receive help if they do the remedies in a nice way. Not because of the remedies themselves, because the remedies themselves of their own, we may not have the power to fix our life. But because they're connected to Mahaprabhu and they're chanting the holy names, then there's cooperation so that the life becomes smoother. So the understanding is that it is not a random occurrence. It is a very arranged occurrence of coming in touch for guidance. Just as much as when we come in touch for guidance with spiritual authority, it is also very arranged because karmic situations have to change. So there are different degrees of help that can be provided. Yes, Prabhu.
In one of your earlier seminars, you mentioned that if we think that a particular situation has been given to us by Krishna, then even if it hasn't, Krishna will play the role as if it has. How does that fit with getting astrological help?
See, for the bhakti yogi, for a devotee who wants to follow the principle given by Mahaprabhu, the principle is very straightforward. We chant the holy names, we accept life with Trinada Pisunichena, where we accept it as if Krishna has made this arrangement. Okay? And we chant in surrender. This is the arrangement of Mahaprabhu. But we also notice that in our society there are many devotees or practitioners at an early stage who cannot take the intensity of life. If they lose their job, they give up chanting. If they lose the relationship, they give up chanting. It's almost as if everything, the first thing to stop is to give up chanting. And I tell people it really doesn't make sense. The first thing you do is you chant because that's the only way for you to resolve things. Your spiritual life has the power to resolve your material issues. But people do not have that ability because in many, many cases, the suffering is so great that the devotee does not have the ability to cope with it. So you have to kind of act as an emergency caregiver at that point so that they can cope with it. And then once they stabilize, if you are spiritually mature, then you also have the ability to tell them that stop, now you come back to Krishna consciousness, do this, you avoid this. So it's a combination. So there's a matter of judgment. It is not a matter of indiscriminately doing something, it's a matter of judgment. Yeah. Because in many cases we notice that. We notice that our devotees, the first thing they do is they stop their sadhana if life becomes difficult. Life is difficult, Prabhu. I don't have money, so I stop chanting. I'm looking for jobs. Yeah? Relationship issues, I'll stop chanting. One can understand health. I can't chant properly, then you can understand. So our devotees do that because that is the nature of our congregations now, is everybody is engaged in activity outside. So they have this confusion. So what I'm trying to say again, it's a matter of judgment. It is not a matter of, it's not a cookie cutter, as we call it in America, remedy saying one shoe fits all and everybody is going to fit into the same shoe as they come along. They don't. But it raises a good point. What is most preferred? Chant and depend on Krishna. That is the most best preferred remedy for everything. This is Trinadapi Sunchena. If you don't have the capacity to do that, then find out a way to solve the problem, but continue chanting and depending on Krishna while doing what you can on your side. Chaturvida Bhajante Mam. 90% of devotees, they belong more, I don't want to use percentage, but most of the devotees belong to 7.16. We spoke about it. They come with desires. And they get very disappointed because they are in passion. And they have attachment to the desires. If desires don't take place, they get very disappointed. And if they've been chanting the holy names, if they've been coming for Mangalati, they start blaming the process. I came, I chanted 16 rounds, I come for Mangalati, I do service Krishna. You didn't do your job. I had this wonderful plan. How could I have lost my job? How could I have gotten into trouble? I'm doing all of this nicely. A lot of them don't have the capacity to understand that these challenges can come, and it is also Krishna's arrangement, and it is a process. So someone has to guide and help based on the maturity of the person, because not many people can take it. Yeah.
I was just thinking maybe it's analogous to how if you break a bone, then you go and see a doctor to fix it. But if our desire is broken or if our will is broken, then we still might need some help with that outside
Exactly.
of just chanting.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very complex area, and it is somewhat very difficult for someone who plays the role of offering help. Very difficult, because you're walking on a tightrope yourself. Because we have a tendency to not understand our Siddhanta. People have a misunderstanding that Krishna consciousness, the goal of Krishna consciousness is peace. Devotees, the goal of Krishna consciousness is not peace. We are not chanting for peace. We are not New Age personalities chanting for peace. Peace meaning, I want peace in my life. I don't mind paying the price of some disturbance in my life if I can get prema. That is the Siddhanta in reality, but we have to be ready for it. Yeah? You have to be ready for it. If you're not ready for it, then peace is provided. So we'll stop here, because we have 5 minutes to go, unless there's any last question we could take, and then we'll break for... Is lunch prasadam now? It is. So we'll break for lunch prasadam, and then when are we coming back again, Shimon?
3:30.
Yep, so it's 3:30 good, we'll convene again, but then the next session is going to be how our mantras work in the chart. It's going to be very interesting. It is not going to be sadhana, what is it, how our Guru Puja works, how is the Mahamantra going to work, and how is serving the Guru going to work, and where are the problems. We're going to look at it from a more practical, dynamic aspect as to what this is. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. Lord Premanande.